community voice channel, and probably Jody. They're all in now, though. I have to pay attention.
Right.
I'm not used to driving, Robert. So you're going to have to sit there and cut me some slack.
Never done it. Understood.
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay, so we were wrapping up public speak. Joanne, did you have anything you wanted to say at the outset here?
No, thank you. Sorry to have missed what everybody else said, but that's the way it goes. But no, I'll just listen.
We were mostly just welcoming our new treasurer.
It's fine. I was just early tonight. No problem. Thanks.
Okay. And Jody, did you have something you wanted to mention at public speak?
No, I'm just here to listen, and if you have questions, I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Changes and additions to the agenda. I actually do have one myself. I got an email regarding setting up the RAM budget presentation. From Jim had emailed me about this. Apparently, the suggested dates, and actually, I wanted to run this past Jeff. We have meetings scheduled on the 11th and 18th of February. I think that are joint sessions with the Board of Selectmen. And the inquiry was, would either of those be a good date? I have no particular objection to that. But since we have our first selectman here, I just want to bounce it off you as well, Jeff, if you had thoughts.
No objection to that. I think it'd be great. Do it on the 11th or the 18th, whatever makes sense for the rest of the board.
Okay. My inclination would just go for the 11th, then we'll just get it done.
And what was that again? If the RAM
The RAM superintendent will be presenting their budget to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. That's a yearly thing. It's nice to get it out of the way, hear what they're looking for, what our levy's going to look like, maybe if it passes, obviously, referendum, cost drivers, etc., that sort of thing.
To let you guys know, the Board of Ed has a meeting on the 11th.
The Board of Ed does?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
The 11th, regular scheduled meeting. So, no, it's not. It's a special meeting, right? It's a special.
Do it on the 18th.
18th, I won't be here, but that's okay. It's
All
That's
right.
our first budget meeting. That's one of our budget meetings.
I know
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just pointing
it's
it
a
out.
problem. It's a long story, but I'm gonna miss the 18th, so I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Things happen. All right, we can look at the 18th then. That's fine by me. I don't have a rejection to that. Okay. So I thought I saw Nick raise his hand. Are you all right there, Nick?
I was just curious, is this similar to the meeting we had Monday with the budget? That was on the Board of Education presented the budget fine.
That was the
Monday.
Right, it's sort of it's the RAM board, the regional, for the middle high.
Okay.
Them explaining to us what their budget's looking like. Now that's a separate process from the way AES works, right? So we have, because we're a regional in the middle high, what happens is they work with their budget. There's a RAM Board of Ed. Each town has a certain number of representatives. Unfortunately, we're the smallest town, so we have the fewest on that board. But they put together their budget, and that gets voted on separately. But it's a separate referendum that occurs for the RAM operation budget, and simultaneously you vote on the RAM capital budget. If those pass, then it's locked in. Like, we can't do anything about that. So that's one of the things that what makes a RAM kind of really important to us, and knowing what's coming down the pike is important to us, because once it's done, it's done. It's, usually something like a third of our budget. So pretty big deal. So anyway, typically each year the superintendent comes to the Board of Finance. Presumably in the past, I don't know if they've done it separately with the Board of Selectmen. And I think this year they're thinking, well, you have joint meetings, so why don't we present to you both at the same time? So that's the plan. So I'm good with the 18th. If anybody has any further comments, let me know. Otherwise, we can just plan on that. Okay. Anybody else have any other changes or additions to the agenda tonight that they want to propose?
I'd like to add an issue, if you don't mind. I'd like to address, I had made a request last month about information specific to the transfers, the HVAC transfers on the Board of Ed budget. And I haven't received that, so I'd like to just talk about that. So I don't know if that would be old business, new business. It's from last month.
Yeah, we can add that in as new business 6A, I guess.
Okay.
Anybody? So why don't we make a motion to that effect and vote on it?
Okay, I'd like to make a
proposals
motion. Okay, you want me to make the motion or do you want to do it?
Go ahead. Go right ahead. It's your
I'd like
motion.
to make a motion to add item 6A to the agenda to revisit my request for documentation to support the Board of Ed transfer of $127,468 to the R&M HVAC line item in the 2024-2025 budget.
I'll second that.
Okay.
How's that? Is that specific
Very
enough?
good. That's very specific. All right. All in favor of that motion? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Motion passes. 6A will be on there. All right. Make sure I don't forget it, Liz. Okay. So we have a town administrator's report here. Oh, sorry. Are we done with new additions, deletions? Anybody? Anybody got anything? No. Okay. Going once, going twice. All right. We have a town administrator's report in our packet. I don't know if Jim is up to running us through it verbally, but I hope people have had a chance to at least scan through it. I went through it very quickly.
Mhm.
It seems like we're addressing our staffing issues, which is good.
Fantastic.
Moving forward with some projects like the generator for the senior center, community center. Well, they're prepping for it in any event, and the Long Hill Bridge and et cetera. So budget stuff starting to come in. Hopefully, I sincerely hope that we'll get more on that for our next few meetings. So we have a look at those preliminary budgets and see what the various folks are asking for. Okay, so I don't know, Jim, if you're up for talking, if there's anything that I'm not hitting here that you think is important to highlight, let me know. Otherwise, I guess
Since Jim is out of Rob out of commission because of his dental work, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to fill in for Jim and do what I can to answer anything if you guys have anything on his report.
okay.
I mean, basically, I would tell you from my one thing from my end is we're going to have a little bit of an issue with plowing overtime. Obviously, the storms in the beginning of the year for ice and this last storm happening on a weekend have not really helped our cause. So we're hopeful that this nor'easter does not come up the coast and hit us again on another weekend, because it is really going to cause us a little bit of a problems with our overtime line. So I'm just making everybody aware of that. So
Thank you.
Worst comes to worst, we'll have to address it. Either finding some line item that's under expended or dipping into contingency. Hopefully not. But and I see there that I don't know about running low, but we're chewing through our salt sand mix pretty good as well. That's halfway through in January. Hopefully we get lucky from here on out. We'll see. Nothing you can do about it.
I can give you an actual real-time update on that. What was the problem was right before the storm, everybody was having issues. So what Eric, our new public works director, who, by the way, I'll give him a shout out too. He's doing a very good job. Very happy with having him in place right now. So he had an order in for salt. He wasn't getting anywhere. And with this storm, there's been a significant usage and uptick on the salt. So what he did, and you will notice it around our streets, is he mixed the sand and salt together. So our roads have been sanded for the first time in years. And that was simply to stretch our salt out in case the delivery that we had on order didn't arrive. But as of today, we're supposed to get that delivery. It's supposed to be delivered tomorrow, and Eric's response was to me, "I'm hopeful that we'll get it all, but with what has been going on lately, I believe it when it's all stacked in our shed." So we should be okay with that. But there was a little delay. There was some information that there was a problem with the port and getting some barges into the port on salt. But for whatever reason, we're supposed to be on the delivery schedule for tomorrow. So.
Okay. And on the salt, is there potential budgetary impact there, or are we okay on the
We're off.
budgeted amount?
Yep. We should be good on that one.
Okay. Well, I mean, the weather is what it is, right? We deal with it. All right. And then, my only question here is just as a refresher on this senior community center. Well, not just this, it's the fire, the town hall, and the community center. The installation of this switch, in anticipation of the generator system. The generator itself, can you remind me, have we already set aside everything we need to do for that generator? terms of-
That is not a set aside. We didn't tax the residents for this. This is coming from one of two sources. It's either coming from the federal set aside grant that we had pushed through Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal's office, or it's going to come out of a steep grant, the state grant that we already have. So
Okay.
we have, let's go this way. We have two sources coming up that total a little bit over $500,000. One is a state, it's not a steep grant, it's a state grant that Senator Rahman assisted us with in obtaining. And there is a 200 and a little bit over 250,000 grant that was from the federal senatorial set asides. And the plan is to use those $2 to those two amounts to connect the generator to the community building, so the fire department, the town hall, and the community center. And the remaining money is to be used to make finishing touches to the community center, such as the kitchen and such as the downstairs room, to sit there and improve both facilities. So those have been done with grant funding or federal
Okay.
funding, however you want to look at it.
Thanks for the refresher. I had just forgotten. That's all. All right. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions looking through this administrator report? Anything else they want to bring up and discuss?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm just quickly going through the rest of it. Just okay. I'm good.
Okay.
Just to let you know on that budget to actual, they did it, who printed it, didn't know, I can compact that onto one page. You've got two sections of that budget to actual there. It's like page to page, page to page.
Yeah.
We can compare that. Yeah.
I made a note. And I was going to say, is there any way we can get this on
Yes.
landscape?
Oh, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Jeff said something too about budget, trying to do a format on that too and give you some more information on a different format for the budget too. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up, and that is our next agenda item, budget to actual. Did anybody have anything further on that at this time that they wanted to ask about? And so forth.
Can you read it is the question. Because that is, I mean, I actually resorted the pages so that I
I
could
did too.
so I could look at it. So, well, I mean, I would sit there and I would go through, your revenue is seeming appropriate. And when you go through your expenses, there's not anything that's crazy out of line, but you need a different level of information. And what I've spoken to Lisa about, so everybody's aware, and I spoke briefly to Rob about it, but there has to be a consistency of information that's shared between all the boards in town. So what has to happen is the Board of Finance gets the information first at its meeting because it's so late in the month. And then that same information goes to the Board of Selectmen so that they can review it. It just has to be consistent. And what I would tell you all to do is, if you don't like something, you got to come to us and we've got to sit there and identify that it works or it doesn't work. So this information to me, if I was on your board and I'm on my board, it doesn't work for me. So I'm just telling you, it's not, I know the information, I see where it's going, I understand what's happened, but it's very difficult to read and it doesn't give you enough of what you guys need to make decisions moving forward. And you need to evaluate the information every month so that you can see what we're doing. And if we're running into trouble, you guys are aware of it and you make your
Yep.
decisions as to what we have to do, because we manage, you guys identify the expenses and sit there and say you're overexpended or you're underexpended. And that's how it's got to work. You guys got to get the information first and then we get to see it second. So
Yeah, I mean, personally, what's in the past been useful is, when we've done these meetings, we've generally asked someone, often it was Eric, is there anything in here that you want to highlight for us that's getting off track? Because you don't always know as Board of Finance member how cyclical things are, the timings of things. So you might look at a line item and say, oh gosh, we're halfway through the year, but we've spent 60% of it. Are we on track here, or are we over, or are we looking at like we're going over? And that's the sort of information I think we need to know so that there aren't some giant surprises at the end of the year.
yeah,
I have a, for example, the library stuff, library payroll and the library operations. That's 4501. It's almost like double. Did they have an increase in staff for both of those? It's like double
well, the first line, you have to remember, the first line is what they've spent to date.
to date. Okay.
And the second line is what is budgeted on the first page.
Yeah, so they're 52% spent. So if it's halfway through the year,
That makes
Roughly,
yeah, that second page where I said would all be on one page, it does say, that,
okay.
and
So
that's
this-
about right.
And Louise, so the first column is not the budget. The first column is what's spent. And
Yeah.
this is something that I spoke to Lisa about, is just improving the flow of information so it's easier to read and easier to digest, so that we can all sit there and understand where we're at and what we need to do. So we're going to work on that. And as a group, as a Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, we need to sit there and say, listen, we've done what I would call in the process a poor job identifying what information is appropriate, not appropriate, and what we want and what we don't want. We have to do that across everything, to sit there and say, this is the information, this is how we want it. And then you as a board have to get it in that manner. And I'm going to sit there and tell Lisa what I think is important for our board. And then hopefully it dovetails into what you guys want. And we get one package. I don't want two packages. I don't want different information. It's one package.
So that actually, the fact that you brought up the library, Louise, that actually brings me to a question that I had when I look at the library budget. I see two line items. I see payroll. And I know when we get our big budget, the big budget Excel book, we can see all the salaries and all that stuff for all the employees. But the other line item is library operations. Can we get more detailed? Probably. So like if you look at the building department, there's more line items and there, more specific line items versus library operations. Just seems like an overall number. Should there be more? I don't know how a library operates, so I'm just
Jeff, is that
wondering
due
if we
to
should-
them being like self-operative, that they don't have as many lines? Or the other thing is, in that new format that we're going to try, we can put what's in those operations, even if it's just briefly. We can do a memo to the side to say what those operations are.
It is because the library, you have to remember, we have certain organizations within town that do their own internal books. The library and the fire department are the two entities. So yes, we can sit there and break that out. To be really honest, Liz, $14,000, is probably not the one line item we should focus on, is it? But we'll get it. We'll do it because you're asking for it, and that's the way
It was an example. Yeah, it was an example as I was looking through it earlier, and I went, I want to make sure that we evenly look at each department and don't, pick on one area more than the other. And I just realized that, okay, there's 2 line items. I realize it's only $14,000. But it was just kind of an example of kind of the limited look. That's all.
No, we can obviously work with the library.
So
to get you more information.
just happens that Kathleen was walking by here and she's the chairman of the library.
And she's like,
Yeah. So her ears perked up, and she did provide me with a spreadsheet that does have that breakdown, Liz. So it was presented
okay.
to council. I'm sure we can get that to Lisa and make sure that's
That'd be great.
in the report. So she has that information. I can see the breakdown there.
Okay.
So we'll get that.
Thanks,
to you.
Bill.
Okay. Thank you.
That was quick. Thank you.
Yep.
yeah, ask and you shall receive. From you.
Okay.
All right.
So where does that leave us? Anything further on the budget versus actual? I personally agree with everything that's been said so far. I would say, some kind of comment or, memo line would be good on these reports to alert us to things or to explain, preemptively explain things. If something seems out of whack, that would be, always appreciated. Anything like that can usually help us hone in. So if anybody's had anything, any other thoughts on that, we can entertain them. Otherwise, we can move over to the next piece of the agenda. Okay. Hearing none. So that brings us next is check register. I've had a kind of a crazy week. I haven't really had a chance to look at this. So does anyone have, who has been through this, have questions, comments, etc. on the check register?
I perused it a bit. Nothing really. Maybe I'm getting used to what we're looking at each month, so things don't look so curious, but I can certainly understand why other people might have questions, especially
There was
newer people.
There was a couple of things that we didn't understand last time around. And I know Jim said he was going to try and get the definitions of some of those, and they now escape me. I had one. I think, Liz, you might have had one too. But they were just weird things that you're like, well, what does that mean? And they weren't necessarily a lot of money, but there was just kind of a weird name for whatever it was. And I can't remember what they were right now. I'm not sure if Jim.
I think I remembered us having a discussion too to see if there was like a description or a notes field to include in this.
On the far right, we just add.
That is definitely something that we talked about and we would like to have so that people can understand, when you see a check says the Peterbilt store. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Peterbilt, that's equipment, but just a little memo line to say, okay, well, that was spent on this or what have you, would, I think, A, preempt some questions, and B, prompt others that would be useful to us. Because a lot of these, you can look at them and kind of guesstimate what they are, or you recognize them from past reports. But, it would be nice to have just a descriptor in there for these things, especially when it's, just somebody's name.
Yeah, this one was just, there was a couple of things that just sounded really strange, and they were just like really, it'd be nice if they had a better name for some of these things or a descriptor, but.
Right. I mean, exactly. So, there's a couple of things in here that are just names, okay. Not sure what that was exactly. So let's, so yes, I would.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Very much like to see another one.
Spring was one of them. Okay. What is spring for $9,875?
Yeah.
Spring. That's the whole thing.
Right.
Now,
I actually questioned that myself when I saw it. I didn't have a chance to look at it today.
That was definitely what we talked about last time.
See, this is
Yeah, I think it was.
That's the
this
one I
is
brought
something
up.
that we need to do. We need to get Lisa remote access so that she could be in QuickBooks looking at it.
Right
while
now, I
you're
could look
asking
it up for
questions.
you and tell you what it
So
is.
she could almost give you the information as quickly as Bill got us the information on the library.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's
Come
the
on, Lisa,
goal.
no pressure.
That is the goal.
I need
That's
that.
the
I
goal.
need that remote access though.
Now, spring, I know I asked that question to Eric when Eric was here and he gave me an answer and I
Is it
forgot.
trees? It's not trees like spring and twig or,
It's not trees. It's,
okay, I thought maybe they took down some trees.
Is it iSpring every month?
Oh, that's a big bill for every month.
No, it's not.
Okay. So it's not your insurance. Okay. Just want to make sure it's not your health insurance.
It's
No,
AC.
let us sit there and get you that one. So spring and listen, if you guys look at this in advance, I mean, like I can tell you some of them, like
Yeah, email.
there's some
Yeah.
referees that are on here that are just individuals and they get paid through the rec department budget. And
I had a question on one of them.
sure.
It was CIRMA.
Irma, that's your
Irma.
insurance. Yep, that's your insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I
Auto
thought. I
insurance,
wasn't sure.
property insurance, workers' comp insurance. Yep.
Okay. I thought so.
That's our consortium. I forget what the acronym exactly stands for, but it's our insurance. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
It's
Well,
benefits.
that is not the health insurance consortium.
No.
Right.
That's a KERMA is a kind of a non
Connecticut interlocal,
yeah, owned by the towns.
multiple, almost every town. I think can't say every town, but most.
Property casualty, work comp, that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Bond, tank, yeah.
So now you sit there and you say, I'm looking for the health insurance payment. And that is like brown, but I got to look for that one. So anyway,
So yes,
there,
again,
listen, what you're
another
asking
column
column.
with just categorization of these things would be very helpful to
for,
us.
done.
And again, not every single, some things are very self-explanatory. It's just the ones that are a little more,
Yeah.
See,
I mean,
it can be done easily. And the issue is it will tell you which account it went to. It will not tell you unless Lisa can figure out a way to create a memo that will flow through to a report. But
Yeah,
yes,
that's
it can
Jeff's
get
right
done.
with QuickBooks. It kind of limits us to what we can put out here in these other columns. I mean, I can try, but
Well, no, it'll be really easy unless something is split. So like if something
Yes.
is split between
Yes.
two accounts, it just tells you split.
yeah, that's
It
all.
doesn't give you the individual account. So we'll work on it. It's something that can get done. And listen, there's not that many transactions. I'm sorry. There's, you take each page and you go, each page is let's say 30. How many pages of this do you have? 5? So 180 transactions is the month.
Yeah.
We can give it to you.
So
Yeah.
one thing
Let's do the ones that are the low hanging fruit, the ones that aren't complicated, and then when we get to those ones that are a little more complicated, split or what have you, that's where in-person explanation can fill in the gaps, unless and until we can get to a point where you can wrangle QuickBooks into providing better information. Until that time, we just ask you at our meetings. But yeah, the number one thing for us, I think, on the check register is definitely for those that are straightforward to do so, a memo or explainer line, just to categorize these things. Up, that's a referee. Up, that's grounds. That's the fields. That's this, that, the other. Just so that we can hone in on the things that are still question marks, and then we'll be through this faster, and we'll get used to it, and it'll help educate some of our newer members who aren't accustomed to looking at this stuff too. That's another good reason to do it. So I'm good on that. If Liz, did you have further?
Yeah, and I'm sure that Jeff probably can answer this. The NJR construction for 153,000. What is that?
That's related to the bridge project. So
Bridge. Okay, I figured it would be an easy one.
So they are running we're still getting some residual transactions related to the Bunker Hill Bridge. And
Okay,
those are grant funded.
right.
But we have situations where we lay out money and get it back, right?
That's
Right.
one of them. So we
Yep.
pay that 156 and then we submit to the state and the state reimburses us the 156.
Okay.
So-
And the other one that I had a question was the SLR International, 27,500. It's just
Uh,
below that.
Yeah, that is one that Lisa and I'll have to get back to you on because I don't even know that one.
Okay.
It's not in the front of my brain, so I'm sorry, Liz.
Okay. That's all right.
All right, let's come back to that next time.
Okay.
One of the things I noticed, particularly about the spring one, it looks like that's an ACH transaction. If my memory serves me correctly, that means they're directly pulling and they have our bank info too.
Yeah, ACH is automatic clearinghouse. That's what ACH stands for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd have to look into it.
And it doesn't mean that they're pulling it from us. We actually the finance department sits there and originates ACHs on our end through our bank and then pays the vendor that way. So I would there are, I'm sure, some of these that are set up as repetitive pulls, but not very many of them if you really look at it. So I would tell you that that's something that we initiate and then submit to them.
Yeah, because if you look right above it is the RAM and the AES payables.
Yep.
So that's
Yes.
something we would initiate.
Okay.
Page is that on? What? I'm not finding it.
ACH
That
is
spring.
automated clearinghouse. It's just a bank term for taking that out of your bank.
Spring is at the top, right?
Right. I'm just which page is it? Is what I'm trying to.
Page 1 on the bottom.
Oh, page 1 at the bottom. Oh, there it is. Okay. I was trying to catch up and
Yeah.
So it says
Okay.
check because of the transaction, but RAM, AES, and Spring and Wex Bank is the gas card for the senior vans. All get paid by initiating the transaction, just like Wex is really a credit card company. I mean, it's like you paying your credit card online. It would be considered that type of transaction.
I quickly Googled SLR. There's some sort of consultant group that does quote unquote sustainability, and also apparently athletics fields and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that jogs anybody's memory, but that's what came up via the great Google. But we can get more
maybe
for next time.
yeah, I was going to say maybe it has to do with the pickleball field. Maybe
That's a possibility. Sure. They're not the ones looking at the trail connection, right? That's different.
That's it. It's money related to the engineering services on the Percy Cook Trail.
Okay, so it is.
I will sit there and I'll tell you, yes, I believe that's what it is. And you're probably right, but I have to verify that. It's the engineering service. We had to commit the money for the engineering services on that trail. And then there is a grant that will pay for the construction of that trail. So that's the trail that we've been discussing to link the rail trail and the complex at the town hall community center.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Which, to be really honest, if that ever gets built, not thinking of it in such a way, it'd be a great way to get seniors and people to walk from the community center down to the trail without hitting a road, without doing anything, just for exercise purposes. The more I thought about that project, the more I sat there and said that's a really interesting project that might benefit some people, so they don't have to walk on the road. So, but yes, that's engineering. 95% with you, Rob.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I hear a... Okay, does anybody have any further questions on the check register at this time? Melissa is raising her hand.
That was accidental. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. I kept hearing this little pop and wasn't sure what was going on. All right. Very good. All right. Next, let me scroll back up to the agenda here.
Donations.
Donation requests. Oh, I don't think we've made any progress here. This was
It's
the
probably
issue.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just gonna say, it's probably something that could be removed, but then I thought maybe with Lisa, we could fill her in on what it is and see if she had any further thoughts about it than Christine had, but I don't know if you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, so I mean, we had a request could the town take in donations? I forget the specifics of the donation. It wasn't a ton of money.
It was
And
Diane Grenier, I think, was
Diane
trying to donate some money. Help me out. Was it something to do with the library or something else in town? I
The
think
Norton Fund. It was the Norton Fund.
the Norton Fund.
Norton Fund. And there were some questions at the time, I think our past treasurer, about whether, what mechanism we would use to do that. Could we do it? Do we already have too many bank accounts? That kind of thing. And it never actually got resolved. So I guess the question is, is that something so we have a Norton Fund, charitable fund here in town. I don't recall off the top of my head how their funding is normally stored and distributed.
And that's another access I don't have yet because there's 2 QuickBooks. And one is for all the smaller accounts. One is for the major account and smaller one. So I still need to get access to that. So
Okay.
we don't know if there's already a fund. If there is, it could be in that other QuickBooks.
So the
I don't
question was
believe it was
creating a new fund, Lisa.
Yeah.
Someone who likes to donate money to different things.
Well, something that I've done before in QuickBooks is you can do, I know auditors don't like miscellaneous, but you can do miscellaneous. You don't have to open a new bank account per se, but you have to list it in the balance sheet. So I would work around that. You're right. You don't want a zillion bank accounts. Every little fund shouldn't, I don't believe, have its own bank account, but it can be listed separately for certain. Jeff, is that what you're thinking?
This is just something that I think that we have to figure out a
Yeah.
process. It's not something that I know the previous treasurer was dead set against it because there was going to be an amount of effort to either create the fund or administer the fund.
Yes.
And we just have to find a workaround that makes sense. So I don't necessarily know it's something that we need to waste a lot of time on, but we do need to try to help that because why as a community would we turn away money?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Trying to donate to it.
Right.
Right. It's just a question of how to make it work without it being a ton of too much effort, I guess, for the
How
for the
to
result.
correctly
But
record it.
why don't you think about that a bit, and we'll come back to it at future meeting and just kind of touch base on it. But we don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
I have a quick question on that. Lisa,
Okay.
Yes.
have you ever done like sub funds?
Well, that's what I'm talking about in QuickBooks is like, on your balance sheet, you have cash and then you have savings and then you have a miscellaneous and you put all your separate funds in there. But like Jeff said, I want to make sure that it's done properly. So I would just want to check into that, but you're right. And then what you do, if you wanted a separate list, but it wouldn't print in your QuickBooks balance sheet, all the funds printed, but you would know what's in there and you could keep those line items separate. But like Jeff said, we've got to look into it.
Darn.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to 5D, status of school bathroom renovation project. I do have some updates on that I've gotten the last day or two. Nothing is, definitive, but my understanding is that they're bringing in 2 additional contractors for walkthroughs. That planning is underway. By the way, Bill, I normally would ask before I gave out a cell phone number, but Caitlin had asked for yours. I thought you'd be okay with it.
Yeah, she gave me a date of next week. They're going to have one of the contractors are coming in for a walkthrough.
Yeah, I'm still trying to coordinate with her though, because Jeff Murray can't do it on a Tuesday. And
Tuesday.
they were having some real miscommunication issues today. So I'm trying to mediate that. So whether it happens Tuesday or not, that's in progress. My understanding is right now, that's the low bid, but of course, until you do a walkthrough, I don't know how much you could really put stock in a bid.
Right.
In the course of discussing that with Caitlin today, she mentioned that she had a conversation with Eric Sanderson, and he had rustled up 2 more contractors that he wanted to have join the process, which would get us up to 5. Exactly how that's all going to shake out, I don't know, but that's sort of the latest that I have on it. Hopefully the subcommittee members can make these walkthroughs and, have some peace of mind that the right questions are being asked and so forth. But anyway, that is what I have at this time, in terms of that. The other issue, I mean, Jeff Murray and I had a long conversation a week and change ago, right before he went on vacation, about the process and about what we might be able to do to kind of come together and find a way forward. And that's all still in progress. I'm trying to work with him. I'm trying to work with Valerie. I'm trying to work with Caitlin, to try and make all this happen in a way that gives people more comfort and peace of mind. But right now it's still in flux. That's my report. I don't know if anybody else has anything further. Bill, being on the subcommittee, obviously, it's already kind of chimed in that
That's
you've been
that's
alerted
exactly
to
what I would
those.
say right there. And I know as much as you just said just now. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Hopefully next week, before I go on vacation, we can get some of those walkthroughs done.
Yeah. Yeah, Kim.
I just wanted to say thank you for the update, Rob. I appreciate that. That's important. And thanks for
Thanks,
working
yeah,
on all that. That's a lot
try-
of stuff to.
Trying to keep up with it. I wasn't able to make the last Board of Ed meeting. Monday nights are terrible for me, but
Understandable.
I'm generally trying to keep my ear to the ground on this and try and do a little mediating if I can. And we'll see. But yeah, right now that's the situation, and nothing is changed particularly until we have more bids. There's not a lot to say because it was agreed that we'd get at least 2 more. So that's where we're at. If anybody has anything.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I think we do need the different contractors and stuff, but Nick and I went down last weekend for, she gave us a tour of the school.
Mm-hmm.
Bathrooms they need to be fixed. They're
Oh yeah,
pretty bad.
I don't think there's any real question about that.
Yep.
They're out of commission and there's some really old piping and whatnot in there.
Yeah.
So, but it's a question of the process and how it's done and making sure people feel it's being done properly is really what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
So,
Also a drainage. I also heard there's a drainage problem or something.
I think that's how it started. I think that's how they found the problem, wasn't it? Originally was leakage and drainage problems.
Yeah,
there's really old cast iron piping associated with those bathrooms.
She said one of the boys' bathrooms was like leaking all through the pipes down into a room.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think at one time anyway, there was a mold issue, which was also brought to attention too. So.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
This goes into having an appropriate capital plan.
Dear, you froze there for a second.
Okay, am I back?
Yes.
Okay. This goes into us having a truly verified and fledged out capital plan that's documented and there for everyone to understand. A 10-year capital plan to say these are projects that are coming down the road so that the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen can sit there and get together and say, this is how we're going to fund these things. Because not only does this project needs to get done, this project needed to be funded in an appropriate way. So we have issues related to a lot of things related to this project. But a capital plan will surely help us all together plan for what has to happen.
Agreed. I've long wanted, a capital plan, and who knows, someday we'll take the step of actually having a separate capital budget. Well, that's a whole nother story and a whole nother discussion. So that's where we're at on that. If anybody has any further, fine, we can talk about it. Otherwise, we can move on.
I want to go back to that if I can, Rob. What do you mean? We have capital budgets on the projects. We have funds.
No, I mean specifically for AAS.
Oh,
as opposed to
AAS.
Yeah, like Ram does.
Okay.
Right? They have a separate capital budget.
Or
I don't know if that's the right answer for Andover, but it's something I've been noodling around about.
separate entity. It's a different world.
I understand that.
Yeah. So
I understand that. But I also think, and look, I'm getting off topic, so I don't want to belabor this, but just thinking back to, how long I've been involved in town and how many projects in the past that were really pretty much capital projects got done out of the school ops budget or some other mechanism that just doesn't, to me, seem like the right way of doing things. So I think it's something going forward, especially the next time we look at the charter, that we should be thinking about. I'm not saying I have all the answers to it. Right.
Yeah, and I kind of have some procedural things about that. I've started dissecting the charter and looking at some of the information myself. And maybe this is a conversation I could take offline with someone, but I was kind of curious what the proper procedure for something like that is, because we had this. We went to the school and we physically saw it. There was a leak and it turned into something that progressed more and it put the school in a bad position. But I just was curious, like in these situations, what's our order of operations? And if this isn't the right venue, I'd be happy to take it offline with someone.
Well, yeah, I mean that's been evolving and being discussed, and there's disagreement about it, how it ought to be run. We only just recently, this past budget year, put together a capital fund. That for AES that hadn't existed before. How to handle that appropriately is something where not everybody sees eye to eye. And you and I can absolutely chat with you about it. We can to kind of give you the backstory, but we are in a place right now where we have this capital fund and there's money in it. And there's disagreement about exactly how the process should work to release funds from that fund. That's the short version.
Should I share with them how I've done it in the past? Or no? It's now not the time.
I'll take any, if you want to add information for what you've done in the past, but
We had a 10-year capital plan. And if you have a fire truck that's $800,000 and you're going to finance it over 4 different years, you slice 200, 200, 200, and you put that in the first 4 years. So your first column is the only thing you're voting on because that's the current year, but you have a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
So if you know you're not going to need another plow for 3 more years, you scoot that over 3, and every year is a certain percentage of your full budget that you don't want to spend over on your capital if you can help it. But that plans, you put in $350,000 a year for your roads, for your public works. You put that in all 10 years and then you take your gear. Well, that's different for fire because fire takes care of themselves. We used to put 10,000 aside for each firehouse for gear and hoses. So you put it in all 10 years of the plan. So you're looking, and as you come down, you can see, oh my gosh, this is 3rd year, we're going to need a plow. And it's like, well, we also need, a fire truck. So it just gives you long range planning.
That's how we
you only
do it on the
vote
town side.
for that. Yeah, you only vote for that first year. And I used to take out like a 2-year note. In the first year, if something was 100,000, would put 50,000 in the budget and then 50,000 in the note and pay it the next budget.
Yeah,
It just was
on
a
the town
really
side
good
we
way
do
to
that.
see.
The issue has been in the past, and up to this date, there's no formal capital plan for the school. It's something that we've talked to the superintendent about, so that we've talked to the Board of Ed about. They really need to produce one.
The school was included in our 10-year plan. They would like the first.
Well, ideally we would integrate it. Yeah. But
Yes.
the point is the Board of Ed and the superintendent have to put together that plan and bring it to us, bring it probably through CIP. We have a capital improvement commission, a committee rather. And then we can then have a document that includes not just the town stuff, but the school stuff.
Right.
And we can talk about, what needs to go into that fund. So it's not ad hoc. Like we know we had the bathroom project, so we put money in for the bathroom project, but what's the next thing and what's the next thing and what's the next thing and what's the time frame? So no, that's absolutely something we want to do. It's something we've talked about before. It's something that we have asked for and we will continue to ask for sure. The issue is also just the procedure for releasing.
See, we didn't have a fund per se. It was its own budget. So we had the school budget, we had the town budget, we had the capital budget, and it's all one budget. That's how we did it.
Right.
So that capital budget was part of that total budget piece.
Right.
So in that first column of those 10 years, that's what goes in your budget. And as that project is done, the town pays for it, but it comes out of your capital budget, but it comes out of your general fund.
Right.
So,
Right.
so there's no like fund set aside unless that project is already in that year.
Right.
Well,
And
listen,
if it's a 2-year or 3-year project, you have to put it in your budget.
Right.
if you guys all understand what is going on with this is what is being asked and what you're even saying, Rob, is that the school needs its own capital fund so they can manage their own projects. That's what you're basically trying to say. And that is what you're trying to say. And there's definitely going to be a lot of disagreement about that because, again, it's a town building. It's the biggest town building. It needs to be maintained. We just all have to work together. And to be really honest, as a volunteer, because I am a volunteer, I am so disgusted that we can't just work together as simply as possible. So, and if you look at your budget from last year, it's on the last page. This board made $967,000 capital related, or 980,750 capital related appropriations last year. And they all went into different funds that we keep to sit there and manage. The biggest one being road improvement, which we try to do every year. And then the ones that we've been trying to save for are the bridge and culvert fund, because that's going to be a problem. We have a culvert going on Lake Road over Missoula that's going to cost us a lot more money than we originally planned for. And
that's a 50-50 grant situation, right?
50-50, it's potentially going to cost us upwards of $900,000. So
Right,
but we got to try to find other alternative sourcing mechanisms for it. But again, I'm going back to a really simple concept. This is it's easy. It should be easy for all of us to work together and get things done. Should not be difficult.
No.
It should be a plan. It should be a plan of what needs to happen. And that
Correct.
reminds me of something that was mentioned the other night at the Board of Ed meeting. Valerie mentioned that, next year is going to be, a more difficult year because there may be a bigger project, and alluding to something about the air conditioning. I don't quote me on it, but I'm thinking this sounds like a capital thing that should be in the works, in the plan, CIP.
Right.
So,
and I will follow up on that because I've had this conversation with Val before.
Please, thank you.
She told
Thank
me
you.
that she was working on a capital plan. So, okay, let's get it done.
Where is it?
Even if it's a little rough, let's get it done and let's talk about it. Because
something's better than nothing.
We need to prioritize and have a general ballpark target for, okay, we can limp along for 2 more years before we need to do X. X is going to cost this order of magnitude. Even if it's a fuzzy number, we can at least start to plan. So
do we
really agree.
5-year plan that we asked for, Jeff? I remember we had our tri-board meeting a year or so ago. We asked them to give us a 5-year capital plan with, their projects prioritized with budget amounts. Did we receive that? Do we have that 5-year plan?
They started. Eric presented before he left a 10-year plan as to what he thought was coming down the road that had been put out to the public. We presented it to the Board of Education. Valerie had started one, and we haven't gotten that completed yet. And again, I'm just going to sit there and say, you are the board that controls all of this money. You control all of the money and how it's set up. So you guys have to be the ones that demand the information and demand the capital plan and demand everything else, because you guys are the ones that are setting how much money we're taxing the residents.
Yes.
So,
well, as I said,
cool.
Work in progress. We're going to get it, but we're going to keep pushing on that. We're going to keep looking for that. That doesn't relate directly to this project. I mean, this project's already in the works, but we absolutely need to make progress on it for whatever is coming down the pike, whether it's something, whether it's their boiler room, whether it's their HVAC system, whatever it is. Absolutely. We need to tighten that up. We need to have a plan. We can look at it the same way that we look at our fire equipment or our bridges and culverts and so forth, our other big ticket
So you're not saying that that the Board of Ed capital is just in their Board of Ed funds, their budget,
No.
right?
No.
It's the town.
No,
Th-
All right.
There's some backstory to this, but
there's a lot of
they
backstory.
didn't have a capital. They've never had a capital budget, as far as I'm aware. I don't think AS has ever had a capital budget the entire time it's been in operation. So
Why would they? I mean, it's a town building, but why
because,
would they?
well,
But
because the charter,
anyway,
because the
Lisa,
charter clearly says that the Board of Ed is responsible for the operation and maintenance of 35 school roads. So they,
operation and maintenance. Maintenance.
Maintenance isn't a capital
A,
fund.
a capital expenditure improvement. It's
Yeah.
not maintenance.
I mean, I think as you know, what is capital and what is not, you get into some fuzzy areas of what's maintenance and what's a rebuild and you know what,
can
and everything
all
like
work
that. So we need to
together.
figure that out and all
We
work
can all
together. I
work
agree
together.
with you.
And
I agree with you on that.
And just so this board understands, the problem with this, that everyone on that board of selectmen realizes that that project needs to get done, right? It does really need to get done. It's the process of how the project is being handled. If there is no bid on this, you will have a backlash from the board of selectmen and from the town. I'm just telling you. And you guys are responsible for it. And to be really honest, you guys are responsible for this entire thing, to be really honest, because the Board of Education was under budget by 400 and some odd thousand. And this board voted to put 400 and something
Yes.
thousand in a fund.
Yes, we
in a
did.
fund. Didn't go to town meeting, nothing. So we got a lot of problems, but I am understanding that it needs to get done. But
I
you
disagree with you on it. Didn't go to the public. because
Didn't
it was
go
in
to the public.
presentation that was presented
on the next year's budget. On the next year's budget.
Okay. I'm not getting
Look.
semantics, but it was passed at the referendum.
No,
We
it
showed
wasn't.
it on the slide.
Never
Money
on
was to be
one-
moved. And
Never
anybody else on the
one
board remember
budget.
this?
Never.
Liz,
All right, you know what?
guys, come on.
You know what?
It was on
I
that
didn't agree with-
presentation that we made when everybody voted to put it to referendum. Okay,
Look,
I'll find the slide, Jeff.
Slide doesn't
All right.
matter.
I
It was the
really-
prior year
I
money.
really do not want to have this argument right now about whether, you think that we made the wrong call by putting that money in. We've already voiced this before our prior meeting. I heard you then. I have a different take. Let's let this go for now and move on with our agenda because the money's in there. The question now is how to do the project right and all that. Louise, what do you have to say?
I just have a question. Being on the Board of Finance, do we have an obligation to, if we don't receive the necessary required information to make a decision on a budget, can we actually withhold that until we get the information? Like we request certain things, let's say from the AES. If we don't receive that information, can we withhold approving that budget? Do we have that capacity?
I'm gonna have to go back and review the charter again, but I'm not sure we could actually do that. But I will continue to ask for more information on the capital plan. I mean, that's something, it's a running conversation I've been having with Valerie for some time. I will raise it again.
Can you check the charter as well, though?
Yeah, I know. I need to check the charter and look
All right.
at the state statutes again as well, because you get into this issue of Board of Ed versus purview versus Board of Finance purview, and I'd like to be careful. And this is another place where in the past we've had differing interpretations, which is not great. Sometimes the charter isn't crystal clear. Sometimes its interaction with state statutes isn't perfectly clear to a layperson anyway. And then you get into legal opinions and everything like that. And quite frankly, I'd like it to be clear so we're not into dueling opinions, but
Yes.
I have to review it. The last time I looked at the charter for these reasons and the state statutes and everything was when, I was working with Shannon on an attempt to create a process for the use of the capital fund. And I can just tell you my vague recollection of all of that was that it's not always crystal clear. So I do need to go back and re-review that. So we'll come back to that issue.
All right. thanks.
If we could move on, because we're at 8:00 here, so I'd like to keep us moving. If we can go on to the corrective action plan status, I think there was progress made here, was there not, Jeff? The audit corrective action plan for the 2 budgets ago?
It's been filed. It was filed. I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago, but it's been filed. So there was one, well, you read the corrective action plan. Everybody should read the corrective action plan and the issues that are raised in the corrective action plan. And you, as the Board of Finance, have, through the treasurer, have the responsibility to make sure all those items are taken care of for the next audit, so that we end up getting down to no corrective actions required. So, but it's been filed.
Will we get a copy of that?
Sure, I can Lisa can make sure that you guys all get that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Brings us to 5F, AS monthly financial reporting and expectations.
I did notice we have their budget down there attached to this packet too, right?
We have the custom expenditure report, which gives the adopted budget, expended year to date, percentage used and whatnot.
Right.
And then the detailed custom expenditure report, which breaks those categories down a little more.
But I was looking at this, and if we could look at like page 32, it's the first page.
What is it? Because I have a printout.
The slide.
What's on?
It's the monthly summary.
Okay, so the first page of theirs, but 32 into our packet.
Yeah,
32 into the package.
Okay.
Monthly summary.
I just thought there was some good information over on the right side related to grant funding received.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what I would ask the board of this goes into what information do we get each month, so we understand what's going on. I would love to see the expected dollars to be received on those grants over the course of the year and all grant funding, because that's a separate item. So if we provide this year, we're providing $4,565,000, if that's the annual appropriation. And I'm not saying, I'm looking at the number here, I'm not sure if what's got approved or didn't, but it's $4,565,000. Then you take all the grant funding and you put that on top, and that's the total amount of money that I think is there. I mean, there's other items that we need to address too. I would think that you would want the grant funding, tuition payments, and then you have other miscellaneous items like lunch money that's collected and student activity funds that are collected in total, so that you can sit there and understand how this all fits together. But I liked that was at least there, because I don't think I've ever seen that.
Right. It is good to know what the grants are for. So you can kind of put that mentally in the right place. I agree with you that, a lot of these grants, to the extent that they're coming in either monthly, quarterly, that would also be useful information. Like, this is the first installment, but we're expecting 3 or whatever.
Well, like if you look at those school mental health and the school mental health supports, those are, and I will let Jody Ann correct me, I did some research, and those were ARPA related programs. And if those are ARPA related programs, they're going to end.
Yep.
And if you have expenses built up against those grants, then you now have, and this is why I think we need the grant money for the prior years. It's because we've got to understand what grants have ceased to exist, and what, maybe we picked up extra employees to deal with those grant fundings when they were available. And it's really good information that we need to get.
I mean, it says right here, mental health grants expiring 6/30/26, supplemental only.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to your ARPA point.
Yeah. And I just thought it was great. I mean, to be really honest, that's what this board really needs to make decisions is, what is the total grant dollars? How much is expected? Did we collect it all? It's kind of like when you look at the town numbers for taxes. If we're collecting the right amount of taxes and we budgeted the right amount of taxes, we've done a good job collecting. If we haven't done a good job collecting, we're going to be short, and it's going to cause financial hardship for the community. So, yeah, that was interesting. So,
I would like to see, like with the budget that we get from them, their their budget, whatever. I'd like to see it in a format that includes the income at the top, like we see our town budget with all the incomes, all sources of income. I would love to see these sources of income as well.
Right. The only question mark I have on that is to the extent that grants come in or are approved or whatever mid-year, how we handle that information. But I agree. No, I generally agree with you. We want a revenue section,
Right.
and you can look at that as against your expenses, and the way we do it on our spreadsheet. I don't disagree with that. That would be helpful. But yeah, I really don't have a sense for how much grant funding is decided upon and therefore comes in after a budget is passed, and you're into the year. That's something that we also should talk about.
And to be really honest, all the grant funding you're identifying comes out of some other line item that you've already budgeted for, unless I am incorrect and I need to be corrected on that. And Jody Ann is here. Please let her communicate to it. But all that grant funding is going to go and reduce a line item accordingly.
I don't think that's necessarily true, Jeff, because sometimes these grants, I believe, and just in talking about this stuff with Valerie in the past, some of these grants come with strings attached, like you have to use it for a specific thing, you have to stand up something. That may not be true, that you're reducing dollar for dollar something we budgeted.
Correct.
So that's something something we in a comment line or what have you, that would be very useful information.
Yes,
for us to understand.
There were some of those grants that were identified as you had to use it for additional services,
Right.
Placed out there, and like the ECS funding is an offset to
Yes.
Expenses, but these grants, and that's what I was really saying. They may be targeted. You might have to pick up something extra, right? Okay. It was very good information. And I would tell you, I went through their information that they provided, and just so everybody's aware, like 64% of the total expenditures are related to employee costs. So it really would behoove you guys to get a handle on understanding how much of the wages and where they're at are. So 64% of that, what you budgeted for last year is related to employee benefits, wages, and taxes. And then 16.5% is being budgeted for medical insurance. So I thought that was really interesting.
You froze again, Jeff.
He's not freezing for me, Rob. I think
It froze for me. I lost him for about 10 seconds there.
Oh.
Well,
now I'm being told my internet connection's unstable, so maybe it's my fault.
Maybe Rob's unstable.
He seems to be fine.
Basically, the huge pieces are related to that, wages and to
Of course.
medical insurance. So I would tell you that that's,
Yep.
where you look.
Jody,
Jody is here, and I think it's a great time to go to her. Jody,
Yeah, I'll just
please.
say, so if we know we have a grant, for example, like the Title I grant, the amounts we don't necessarily know, but we'll know we'll get some Title I money every year. So just so you know, in the new budget, that is already taken out. So for example, if we know that, $14,000 can cover part of a teacher's salary, then that has already been taken out of the operating. So in those cases, when we know we're getting a grant, that is used to offset and the operating budget is reduced. In cases, like you said, we may have, if we don't know we're getting a grant, and that does happen, Robert, as you said, we'll get grants in the middle of the year. And then, that salary might have already been in the budget, and then we can offset it. And that's actually how AES has wound up with a little bit of a surplus because they got grants after the school year started that then they were able to use. So that's probably that's why they had any, surplus that they were able to put into the 2% non-lapsing.
So just thinking out loud here, as I'm thinking about this, maybe it would be useful if on some of this documentation that we get, for the purposes of kind of educating us and so we understand it, if we could have maybe a separate section for, mid-year grants or whatever, something that wasn't sure going into the budget. And sort of like the date that grant went live, so we can understand that, okay, that came in mid-year. That's something that we basically couldn't have planned for necessarily. We weren't sure about. And it's kind of its own little category, maybe. I just off the top of my head. So what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, is if going into the budget season, we're sure of a grant, or AS is sure of a grant, and it's going to offset some costs, you already are pulling that out of your expenditures?
Yes, we are. So there are several teachers that, their salaries are not even in the operating budget because we know they're covered by a grant. So for example, when we look at the early start pre-K grant, okay, so that one is 66,000 we've received. It's 33,000 in 4 installments. So yes, those salaries are not in the operating budget at all. And you see that's the largest grant. So yes.
How many preschool teachers are in the operating budget?
0.
No,
How many how much of the benefits and insurance are covered under the general fund? For the preschool?
Those are, all the salaries are covered in the general fund. Benefits are
general
covered
fund?
sorry, what did I say? Salaries are all covered. I'm sorry, not by our salaries are not in the operating budget. Benefits, they are, and I need to be very clear here, and this is where we have to be very careful not to go tit for tat, and we have an obligation. I just want to make this clear.
Health insurance, and what else? What else? Benefits, insurance,
Retirement,
taxes, whatever. Yeah, are those covered under the preschool income or the general fund?
Those are primarily covered by the general fund, but not the salaries. But I want to make this very clear because I think it is really important. What people don't understand is that we have an obligation by law to provide pre-K services to special needs students. So to have a pre-K that is, I think Val's done an excellent job of trying to, of using the pre-K tuition and grants to cover the salaries. That's pretty much she's done an amazing job doing that. The benefits, I think you have to just be really careful because if you get stuck on that, you're not understanding that pre-K, we have an obligation by law, and pre-K for services for special ed students will never be free for a district. Does that make sense? I just think you have to be really, really careful here because people don't understand that the obligations that come with students who are special ed and pre-K. So
no, I do understand, but
you might, but some people might not. Not all people might understand it.
So we've been told through the years that that preschool is self-sustaining, and we've never been allowed to see a preschool budget with revenues and expenses. And I think as part of our overall responsibility that we should be allowed to see that because we know that we have a legal obligation to cover certain teachers, even a whole teacher salary. Like if there's a special ed student in a preschool class, I think by law, we're required to cover that teacher's salary. And we have no insight whatsoever into any of this.
So, yeah, I agree. And I think, again, I think you all have to talk, you've talked about procedures and process, right? And that is something that you as boards and people all have to work out. Like, I do know what's been voiced is that the salaries for pre-K are not in the operating budget. So I think that's been very clear that the
They're
salaries of
covered
pre-K are not in
grant
the
and
operating budget.
tuition. So
But
I
it
guess
still,
the
there's,
question
we
would
haven't
be is
seen
if
any
we could get,
financials to support it. That's all. We just
So
don't get
if
to see
we-
the financials to support it.
if we could get maybe some basic aggregate data. I understand there's concern. We have to, for privacy concerns and things like that. So, and I want to be careful there. But maybe what we could do to satisfy this kind of request is to say, can we just get kind of the aggregates of income versus expenditure on it? And then maybe we can put this to bed and it won't be an ongoing issue because we keep coming back to it.
Well, I think, sorry, and I don't want to
yeah.
belabor, but I think what you can look at is like, look, I can tell you all salaries are covered by tuition and grants. Okay. So all salaries. So when you look at what's not included in that, right? Okay. Or benefits, that is presented to you in the benefits line, right? And that's the best way. That's the way when you look at our budget and then when we put together, when you look at benefits, okay, that is the benefits are including all staff that has taken health insurance with us, right? And we don't disclose who that is, what their issues are, but I can tell you is when you look at that benefits line, that is everybody at AAES who is taking insurance. So
what I guess I'm getting at is, obviously it's not disaggregated between K through 6 versus pre-K, right? It's all together. Right now,
Yes.
that's the way it's shown.
Yes.
Okay. Wouldn't it, and this is just my end, I'm assuming, Jodianne, that you have some detailed information that you use to put together the budget. Why can't you sit there and take any identifying features off of the spreadsheet, such as teachers' names? Now, we would need to know there's a special teacher or what step they're in, and provide the board with the details to support the payroll numbers that you're talking about. And then that way, this is all done. I'm just telling you, you have the details. This board should see the details.
Yeah, but I can't disclose to you who's taking insurance. That's
listen, I don't need you to disclose one thing. Show them the bill.
I guess the question is, can we do it in an aggregate form, Jody? That's what I'm trying to get at. Is I don't want to run afoul of any privacy issues. I don't want to get information that we're not supposed to have. That's fine. What I'm saying is in order to try to address this concern that, keeps coming up on this board, is it possible we could get, without any identifying features, aggregate numbers, not necessarily line by line, but this is the benefits associated with, this bit of operations. That's just my thought.
Okay. I kind of have a little issue with that. I've been doing a little bit of research in other towns, and I found a budget for the town of Franklin, which really surprised me. Their budget, their Board of Education budget, was detailed by, they broke down the salaries. Teacher 1, X amount of dollars. Teacher 2, X amount of dollars. Teacher 3. I don't even know what their names are. I don't know what grade they teach. I really, I don't know any of that. But they detailed it so you could really see, okay, this is just like we on the town side get to see this huge spreadsheet or workbook with various tabs, and we get to see every employee's name, how much they make, how much it's affecting all the other benefits and all that stuff. And I'm not saying we need to see names like you could redact everything. We are A, taxpayers, and B, we're Board of Finance members. This should not be kept from us. So, what's the reluctance? We're not asking for personally identifying information, but we really even the Board of Ed doesn't look into that detail of the budget that Valerie creates.
So I just want to
They
say
admitted
again, again, my issue is I'm not sharing information about health insurance and like for.
Well, and we're not
Yeah.
asking you to.
But,
We're not asking you to.
But I do think,
I
and this is what I
understand.
will say, like, I do think this predates me, right? So I think in Andover, I'm learning all the dynamics of Andover. And I think what really needs to happen is you as boards need to continue to work together to determine, how you're exchanging information and what you want, right? So I'm kind of, I report to the superintendent and to the Board of Education,
Sure.
and they, so I think you guys all have to kind of figure that out.
Yeah,
Agree.
we should agree what we want to see and send the request.
Right, and I think we're just having a discussion here. I don't this isn't a formal motion or anything like that.
Correct.
And I just keep coming back to the idea of if privacy is the concern, aggregate data is maybe a way around that. Instead of looking at individual teachers that you might be able to identify, if that's the concern, but we don't even have right now. We don't have a great sense for that. So that's all. I'm just trying to find a way to yes here, and so that we can get enough information that people here have more comfort with what we're looking at, what's being asked of us going forward, etc. The grant money, I mean, I'll just echo what Jeff said earlier. The information here vis-a-vis the grants is very good. Pleased to see it. I think as we mentioned, it would be helpful to know if some or all of these grants come in several tranches. I don't know what the right word is for it, with several installments. Sorry, that's the word I wanted. Just going forward, just so we know, okay, look, this is a $66,000 grant. It comes in 3 installments of $22,000, whatever. So that we have an idea for that. And again, I'll go back to the issue of the mid-year grants. It would be good to identify those somehow, just, I don't know, color coded or something along those lines, so that we know, hey, this is something that wasn't necessarily budgeted for. And then in the comments of those, if we could understand if that grant creates a obligation as well as giving you funding, but one of those grants that says, hey, you have to use this to build out a new thing, right? Because I know some of the grants work like that. So we want, that would be helpful, I think, so that, we have that information and we don't have to always go through this with you every time. We can, kind of build that knowledge. So that's my thought, excuse me, on that. Tickle in my throat there. But yeah, we can keep talking to the Board of Ed about what detail, level of detail we get. But I do think it's not unreasonable to say, at the very least, can we get kind of an aggregate picture of what's outgoing for benefits, what's, and go from there. But again, we can come back to that issue and keep talking about it. That's fine. But the more, obviously, the more we can get, the more comfortable people will be when we're reviewing a budget request for a new budget season. Yeah, that's all. And part of this does come from what the members of this board are accustomed to looking at when we look at the town budget spreadsheet, which Jody, you haven't been here all that long yet. You may not be, I don't know how familiar you are with the way our spreadsheet looks when we start building it. But that's part of, I think, where you're getting these questions from, is that people are thinking about, well, this is what I see on the town side. That might be helpful for you and members of the Board of Ed and Val to think about. That's where a lot of these questions are coming from, because we're accustomed to going line by line through that spreadsheet, So, and look, I will voice one thing. I mean, technically, the Board of Ed is the first sort of, review board for this stuff. We also should have information, but they also, they are tasked with working up their budget and keeping on top of this kind of stuff too. So some of this may be, stuff we have to work out with Caitlin and her board, and not necessarily just put it on Jody, at our meetings. We may have to have more discussion there.
Of course, I would not expect that sort of level of detail from Jody in our meeting. Of course not.
Okay.
And didn't mean for it to sound that way either.
No, I appreciate, I just want to streamline, like you said, like have the right process and making sure information's going through the right channels in the right order, you know? So.
The only other thought I have, Jody, and again, this is something that maybe our treasurer can opine on, maybe you can opine on from your past experience. Do you find it typical that the way you guys are handling that grant money where you're pulling expenditures out of your budget because it's offset? Do other towns do it that way? Because I'm thinking actually what would be better would be to show the grant money coming in as income and show the expenditure in full and explain the offset rather than yanking it out of the budget entirely. I think that I don't know that that's best practice. And I just want to raise that as a potential concern because it seems to me that in that way, it's a little bit more opaque in terms of what you're really spending and what it takes to run that school.
You want to show your true expenditure. And if you're taking it out before you do your operating, it's not that we're not seeing it. I go back to the auditors. They're not seeing your true expenditure. And right now, in the situation that we're in right now with the corrective action and everything else, I would list it as an expenditure. I wouldn't withhold that.
I was going to say, I think we've been audited and that has never been a corrective action item. I can tell you actually, Robert, where I live, they were doing the opposite and then their books became a mess and then they wound up doing it how we're doing it, keeping.
I did 60 grants and contracts for a nonprofit organization in New London, 60 a year. I did 60 reports. I would never, ever do it that way because then you don't see your expenditures.
Clearly a difference of opinion here, but it is another thing I think we should all think about and talk about.
Because they're the ones that decide whether
I am not an accountant. I'm not actually a finance professional, but I would say that just my gut reaction to that, Jody, when you explained it that way, oh gosh, I have a kid at the front door. I'll be right back. Is that it just sounded a little off to me. That's all.
Well, I'll double check with our auditor to see if,
yeah, I'm going to be speaking. Yeah, I'll be speaking to the auditor too, because I have several questions, not particularly about Board of Ed, but just everything that's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I want to understand more clearly.
And it could just be I'm not explaining it well because in my head it makes a lot of sense and it works.
No, look, a lot of times when you encounter something like this in either municipal or school budgeting and it doesn't automatically make sense to you, a lot of times it's gotten that way for reasons. All right, but I kind of want to dig into those reasons a little bit. I mean, what you're explaining now, where okay, in another town they did it the way that I'm suggesting it should be done, and then it became a problem. Okay, that would be good information to understand because on its face, I think to myself, all revenue, all expenditure, all there. That's just my gut.
Right,
So,
school budgets don't typically, it's different from a town budget where you have your guaranteed
I'm willing to be educated.
revenue. It's not,
I'm
it's
just
really,
saying.
it's focused on expected expenditures. Like when even Val gave her presentation, right? It's not really a budget. Cave says presented as anticipated expenditures. So it's a little bit different, but I will double check with our auditors. And again, I can talk to some other schools and see how they're doing it, and always willing to look at the way we're doing things and see if there's a different or better way we should be doing.
Yeah, and again, I'm willing to receive more information and more explanation as to why this is in fact the right way to do it. I'm willing to be educated on this. It's just I'm raising it because it just struck me as it's not the way I think we would want to do it on the town side. And I get that the town and the school are not the same thing. But just that was my gut reaction. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I think we think about it, come back to it.
But one thing you said, Rob, was really important to me is more information is always better.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that information is, appropriate, and that's the one caveat I always throw in, right? If there's privacy concerns or anything like that, I'd like to steer clear of them. But yes, in general, information is good.
We're talking numbers. We're not talking student names or teachers' names.
Right.
Of course.
We have to be careful to the extent that we are asking for something where there need to be redactions to make sure they're done right.
I'm all for redacting what we don't need to see.
Agree. I think we're simpatico on this. I'm just probably reiterating too many times. Okay. Because the last thing I wanted to do is mess that up. All right. So where are we here? Let's see. We are
Are you tired, Bill?
I'm not tired. I'm tired of the same subject going around and around and saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. We said it. Let's move on.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I'm going to move on to 5G. Fuss and O'Neill billing. This is left on our agenda because there were still some questions about bills getting paid. Where are we at? What is left that has not been paid to Fuss and O'Neill? What are we down to in terms of outstanding invoices there?
$8,000.
$8,000.
Makes
Is
it
that the hazmat review bill, or is that a
No,
different
The
bill?
hazmat review bill is being paid out of the 2% non-lapsing.
That's right. They voted at the Board of Ed to do that. Okay. So the 8,000 remains is the bit that you objected to vis-a-vis construction design? Is that
I have a problem with it because they're changing the plan, and the amount of money on that bill is related to construction administration services. We've already gone through their bidding services and paid for that, even though we haven't done any bids. So yes, I have a problem with it.
okay? What do you, if I may ask, what is your thought on the resolution of this and how long, at some point, I expect the push will come to shove on that. I mean, how that invoice has been in for a while now, right?
It's been in for about a month, a little over a month. It was supposed
Okay,
to
a
be
month,
paid in
all right.
December. It's supposed to be paid in
It's
December.
not okay.
Yeah.
It's not like it's been in since August or something.
No.
Okay. But all right.
So
So
their entire contract, Rob, was $58,000. They've been paid $52,000.
I thought it was 48.
$48,000.
You said 48, right?
It was
I think it was
48,000.
48,600 or
We
something like
we
that.
approved like 49 or something like that to give it a
Okay,
little
and then
bit,
they
but it was-
got paid 42.
Yes.
Okay, so listen, it is simply that if you're going to pivot and change the type of contract you're going to have with Fuss and O'Neill, then change and get a new contract and pay them accordingly. That's my point. So you have to realize that a lot of the problems related to this are it was supposed to go out a design contract, bid, then build someone else. Now it's design and build all in one place. So
the contract that is between the Board of Ed and Fuss and O'Neill, are you saying does not in fact provide for the services on this bill that we haven't paid?
That's correct. They're already on to construction administration. It has 4 phases. It has an informational collection phase.
Schematic design development.
Go ahead, Bill. Bid.
You just said it was the 4 phases. So
going.
the final phase is contract management, construction management.
Construction administration, which we're nowhere near, right?
No.
Okay.
I just want to say Jeff, can you tell me there's still, they have not billed for the full 48,000, right? So the last I knew, aside from that 8,100 for the hazmat, that's separate. I thought there was like a $2,400 check that was hanging out on Chris's. Okay. And then they have not yet billed us for the remainder. So they have stopped billing us.
Because they didn't get paid.
Well, because
Makes a lot of sense.
because the plan changed, right? So when the plan changed, that's when they said, okay, we're halting billing because now that you're right, the construction part hasn't happened. But it's my understanding they've done the work. It has shifted. I agree with you that in an ideal world, should that contract once it changed, should that language, should they have gone back to and changed it? Yes, I do. Right. So
you're telling me in the board that they have done work and billed us under one contract and done work on a side contract that we're not aware of, and we're supposed to pay them on this?
No. What I'm saying is that phase 3, the services slightly altered and the work that they were doing. So, for example, they were fielding a lot of phone calls from what I've heard from town people. That was not part of the contract, right? So the committee pivoted a little bit, but I think your Board of Education.
Bill, did you vote on that as a committee member to pivot?
No.
Okay. So I'm sorry, like we don't have to waste a lot of time on this. Fuss and O'Neill has an outstanding balance. If you as a board all want to commit to having the town sign that check, you can do it. But it is not the right thing to do. So as the chief elected official in this town and one of the signers on the account, I am not signing that check.
Ever.
No, I'll sign it. I'll sign it once the committee and once the Board of Finance and once the Board of Selectmen and once the Board of Education get together and decide exactly how we're going to attack this project. So it's effectively done for the benefit of the community and has a bidding process. It will all get paid. They will have to get paid, Robert. I'm telling you. I know that.
Okay.
I'm just not paying them now until we get an answer because listen, the person that signed off on those bills, pushed them to the town to get paid, knowing that that contract had changed and that they didn't do the services that they were billing us for.
I just
They may
want to
have been doing
disagree.
different services. They may have been doing different services, but not the services that are on their invoice and the contract.
And not what we approved when we approved this as a Board of Finance for the $48,600.
And listen, this would have gotten through if I wasn't the one signing the checks. So yes, I apologize for all this, but I am not signing something. When I go in there and I sign checks, I look at the stuff and I sit there and looked at the bill and go, that bill doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, Jeff, part of the issue, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to be very nice and polite, but
Don't.
nobody told us that check was not being signed. It sat on a desk and then nobody said anything. So you
Sure.
talk about communication, but it's a two-way street. If that bill came by and you didn't think that that bill should be paid, then you should have come over with the check in hand and asked the question instead of just keeping it. And we had to call for weeks and weeks and say, what's going on with this
Okay,
check?
I'll apologize with that, but it's been in public and it has been discussed at multiple meetings. Like Bill said, tired of talking about it.
At this point, that's where we're at. Yes, the only reason I raised it and kept it on the agenda was to keep track of it. I don't want to have the exact same arguments over and over again. So I wanted to be aware that the check is still out there. The payments are still being held. They are. Mm-hmm. I understand your reasoning, Jeff. I've heard you. And I'm going to leave it there for now. And,
And listen, I've said this in public before. I said it at a Board of Education meeting. If this board, the Board of Finance, which I am not a voting member of, wants to vote to have that check released, it'll get released. It's not just Jeff McGuire sitting there doing it. I've already stated it's your responsibility. If you sit there and say, release that check, I don't care. Go ahead, release the check.
Okay.
I personally don't feel like it should be released because I don't feel like we're getting enough information. We've been wanting a presentation to all the boards. We haven't gotten it. And so I'm with you.
Presentation of.
I asked for a
tri-board meeting, Jeff. Yes, I know that you did.
Put it there.
Yes.
All right. So I want to see, this is what I'm trying to get at, and this is why I keep, coming back to this issue is what gets us to the point where we move forward. If that is the ask, we get the tri-board meeting.
Shouldn't it be that we all hold to our policies and actually do an appropriate bid?
Yeah.
Right?
Again, yes.
That's another issue, though, Jeff.
Purchasing policy
Here's
issue.
one thing. This earlier contract, there's two separate issues, though. You're right.
Correct, Bill, and I'm with you. But if we pivot, if we go back to the original program that the board and that the committee was doing, it was a designed bill, $48,000. You designed the bathroom and the renovations that need to occur in that bathroom. Then you send it out to bid. You get 3, 4, 5 bids. You take the low bidder, and then you go forward with the project.
Well, maybe a little bidder, but yes.
Maybe a little bidder.
Maybe not always. Depends on.
Select a bidder.
It's not always the lowest bidder that's the most appropriate. But that said, I understand this is the nut of the dispute. I am trying, both in these meetings and also offline, to get us through this. So that's why I raise it. That's why I ask essentially what will satisfy. Because again, up until this happened, you know, the checks were being issued. So I understand you're saying, okay, well, we could vote to make you do it. I would prefer not to take that step. All right.
We should
I'm
do
trying
it
to find a
collectively.
way that we could all agree to pay the bill.
Oh, and you realize though that Eric processed all of those bills after Valerie had signed and approved them all.
Yeah.
The only reason that this stopped is because I had to sign checks one day.
I know you
So
didn't sign the
just
check.
telling you. So it would have
I'm
continued
aware.
to get paid. Would have continued to have been paid until
Okay.
it was completely done.
Okay.
And then we're going to pivot. Then we're going to
Work has been
pivot to another
done.
program.
Yes.
I just want to say, look, my father is in construction for
Yeah.
years, right? So you start a job and yes, there's a contract, but then something comes up and the parties discuss and they decide what's going on. So I just want to say that I think you do a lot of construction projects, Jeff, and I'm sure you've had contracts that have been signed and you do them. And then the contractor says, oh, well, we thought we were going to use, you know, this material, but it turns out this material's better. So do you want us to move ahead and use this material? And we'll do it for the same price. I'm sure that happens at a town level on projects.
That's not what this is about.
That
Julie.
is
So I'm
exactly
sorry.
what this
and
is.
she talked about
it's a
contract.
process
And
issue.
Listen, she
not
talked
a
about
materials
contract.
issue.
Rob, did you get the signed contract?
My understanding is the one.
Did you get the signed contract?
I have to go back and look at my emails. Hang on. I got a lot of emails. I've had a crazy week.
Because I still haven't gotten the signed contract. I haven't gotten the signed contract.
Hang on. I have an email from Caitlin. This is on the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Authorization to proceed, signed 1/2/2025. Yeah.
Can you share that with the rest of the board?
Sure.
Perfect.
I wasn't involved in the beginning of this, but I just have a question. If we're not paying Fuss and O'Neill because they're doing something different, has anyone talked to Fuss and O'Neill about this? That things have changed and that's why we're not paying them or anything?
Right. Like, what have we explained to them? Yeah.
We've asked for Heather. We've asked for a tri-board meeting so we all can have a discussion related to all of these issues.
No, I'm wondering if anyone talked to Fuss and O'Neill that they're not doing what they said they would do, or they're billing for stuff that hasn't been done. Have we talked to them?
Val's in constant communication, Heather, with Fuss and O'Neill, and throughout this process. And again, it precedes me as well. I just started in November.
Yeah.
But they have, been communicating about all the work that Fuss and O'Neill is doing. So, and Val, as superintendent, is confident that they have done the comparable work to what they are billing for. She is not asking for the Board of Finance to sign anything that she believes that the work has not been done for that.
I have just forwarded what I got from Caitlin to you, Jeff, and the other Board of Finance members.
Perfect. Thank you.
So you can share that with your board if you'd like. And, that's the signed authorization to proceed. Which is what I got when I requested, a copy of the signed contract.
I thought Jeff was saying the $8,000 is part of the actual construction that hasn't been done yet.
So that's the issue that he's raising. Is this phase, because there was a bit of a shift. All right. So the original conception, the understanding was that, Fuss and O'Neill would shepherd the Board of Ed through the process, but bid out for subcontractor work, right? The plumber, the electrician, etc. And I think Jeff's issue is, since that didn't happen, and then we got billed for work that kind of comes at the end we're not really in that phase. It doesn't match up, and therefore he didn't feel appropriate. He was comfortable signing the check.
Right.
Is that a fair encapsulation, briefly, Jeff?
And Robert, what I'd ask, this is the last page that is just they should have included the entire document so that the entire board could sit there and see the entire document that was moved forward with. But Heather, the issue is there are 4 phases to the the document, the invoice that they sent us. The third phase was bidding services, which have never happened. And the fourth phase is construction administration, which is supposed to be after the project starts and they're into work. Fuss and O'Neill was supposed to advise us on what the contractor was doing and not doing. We haven't even gotten to that point. So my issue was, why are we as a community paying for those services?
So is Fuss and O'Neill expecting that check, or are they
No,
know?
Fuss and O'Neill, there's so many problems with this right now as it stands that yes, they're expecting it, Heather, but they've gotten paid for, what is it, 90% of the whole proposal they provided the community and the town. So
I think they got paid 42,850. So there's
Yeah.
3,750 remaining.
yeah, a little
That's
bit
what
more
my
than that.
notes were
They
from
can
last
wait.
week.
I mean, and listen,
Yeah.
the town also, just so everybody understands, doesn't wait 30 days to pay stuff normally. We pay stuff within the first 10 days. You receive the bill, and the check runs are every Friday, every other Friday, every Friday. It might be every other Friday, but they get paid. And so I don't feel bad holding this money. Honestly, as a business owner, I want an answer, to be really honest. That's all I want. Just an answer. Where are we? What is the expectation moving forward? And I think Jody Ann even said that if this project moves in a different direction, they're going to reimburse us for the $12,000 at the end of this contract. That doesn't work for me. She said this at a Board of Education meeting or Board of Finance, but one of the meetings we were at, and that Fuss and O'Neill was
Board
going
of
to
Ed.
reimburse us the $12,000 for the payment on this after we pivot to the build part of this project. And if that's the point, if that was the answer that I got, I'm like, oh, hold the money until we figure out which way we're pivoting. Right? We don't have to waste a lot more time on this one. You either sit there as a board and vote to
All right.
cut the check or not.
Nope. I say move on.
All right. We'll move on for now. I wanted to bring it up. All right. We've I think had what we can say
Yes.
at this point. And as I said before, I personally do not want to take that sort of nuclear option step of, saying no, cut the check over your objections. I'd like to try to get to yes without doing that. New business 6A added to the agenda by Liz. Request for
Yeah, so
information.
last month we talked about concerns I had about the over expenditure, the transfers from
The HVAC thing.
from salaries and benefits to HVAC. And we talked about it. Jody Ann said she would get information about it. So an initial email went out, and it was kind of mixed with a lot of other stuff. So I said, this is going to get lost in the shuffle. I know it is. So I sent a new request, a follow-up, I think on the 16th, saying, just kind of regrouping, specifying exactly what it was I would like to see, because I'm curious about exactly everything that was paid for under the HVAC line. That was on January 16th. On the 19th, I got a response from Valerie asking for clarification. I responded back with specifics that I'd like copies. I'd like to see the invoices and receipts for the expenditures totaling $127,468 under the 430, 2610, 2621 account ID. And I wanted to get it by last Friday, so I'd have a chance to look at it before our meeting. Didn't get it. And I emailed her again on Monday just for like a status. And nothing. I haven't received anything yet. So
I mean,
not a
I
response.
think my only question here is, all the invoices and checks and stuff. Can we start with the explanation of what occurred and then move up before we go into a roto-rootering, every check here? What happened is my first question.
So I was reviewing the school's transfers
Right.
from like last year's budget.
Right. I
And there
remember
was
this.
$259,000 of transfers. And I noticed that there was over $12,000-ish of transfers to the HVAC account. No,
100.
not 12,000,
Yeah, I
100,
was going to say a lot more than that.
7,000.
yeah, 120. And I'm like,
Right.
that's
So
odd.
the first thing I
So-
would say is, can we get just at least a verbal rundown and explanation from AS, from Jody, from whoever, for what that was for? The second piece that you asked for was really kind of intensive, all the checks, all the invoices and everything like that. But can we at least start with the what happened
Well, I
part?
mean,
And I have that information for you. So I just want to intervene too. And I wanted to
Right.
say, I did look into it. So I did say at the last meeting, I'd look into it. I wasn't here last year, didn't know of what, so I did look into it. I also want to say too, like, we're also in the middle of budget season, right? So a request for every single invoice would be very, very labor intensive. So I agree with Robert of like, let's start. So I did bring, and also Liz, I just want to also throw out too that lately we've been getting, as employees, we've been getting a lot of different requests from different members. So, and my bad, I want to be helpful. So I said, email me, but we realized that requests were not being streamlined and somebody was asking me for something, somebody was asking the secretary for something. So we did decide to streamline requests through the superintendent. So it's
which I
we're
did.
not, I'm just saying that, I'm just letting you know. And then with that, when I met with her and pulled the invoices, we said that again, we'd like the Board of Ed to go through it first. And again, we're talking about proper processes and procedures. So when I talked about that, so I did, I brought up the concern or the questions, and then, Val said, yeah, go ahead, pull the stuff, but let's bring it to our BOE and present that, because she thinks it's better practice to share things first with the Board of Education and then the Board of Finance, so that the Board of Education members don't feel like they don't have the information on the budget that they're overseeing. And we have 2 new members. So I can give you the rundown. So
Can I ask one question before you
Yeah.
get in there? Because you said did the Board of Education not vote on this transfer?
no, they did. They followed proper procedure. It was shared, but it was last year. And we also have 2 new Board of Ed members. So they don't necessarily know about this. So we wanted to bring it, if it's a concern, if there are particular concerns that I thought, and I wanted to ask at today's meeting. So what I have prepared for you guys tonight is just a general overview. And also I wanted to ask, was there anything in particular you wanted to know about those as we go through them? And then I can relay that to the Board of Education and Val if there are particular concerns. So do you want me to
Yeah,
run
I'd like
through
a
that?
detailed.
Let's go through
detailed
and
breakdown.
talk about what
Here's
happened.
what you got.
Yeah. So their adopted budget for that line was 15,000. At the end of the year, I don't have the date, but it was May. It wasn't the very, very end of the year. They transferred 112,468.03 was transferred into that account. The total expenditures then, so then that account, that line item with that transfer had 127,468. And then the expenditures for that account were 84. I'll just give you rough numbers, 84,000. And then roughly 43,000 was not expended. So what I learned was that, looking at, the end of the year transfers are common. I know you know that. I know at this town level that happens as well. So when they were looking at where they had money and they were looking at their needs, the board decided they wanted to be prepared for any more HVAC repairs. There also was, the state law has new air quality regulations, and you have to do you have a certain amount of time to do a big HVAC or air quality evaluation. Bigger districts that you could do like one school a year, you have a certain amount of time, but the board decided to because they were in good shape budgetarily to do that last year. It's something it would have had, it has to be done. So they decided to do it. That was a big bulk. That was, looks like 22,000 and then another 2,500. So a big chunk of that transfer in was used for that. And then looking at the other expenses, and again, I'd be very happy to share them. I just wanted to bring them to the Board of Ed first. So they're not getting questions from people before they've been presented the information. But, you know, it's various. So some air conditioning repair, our service agreement, and that's the normal budget. So it's a service agreement of $8,000 for regular maintenance.
I'm
How much was the AC repair?
I'm finding this hard to follow.
Well, I'm very happy to share it again. I'm trying to, again, follow the proper protocols and make, so once we're going to share this with the Board of Ed at the next meeting and discuss it. And then I could share with you, you know, the location of the video where it's discussed, as well as the list after that.
Jody,
So
I
it's
know
just
this
really
is
a
not.
timing
What
issue.
I've got so far is an air quality evaluation for 24,500. AC repair of question mark. What was
Well,
that?
they're all different ones. So we have here's a 1,300. Actually I think new AC room, one room got new AC. I believe the other air conditionings were covered by a grant several years ago. And there was like one or two classrooms left. So another classroom got AC. We got a pump replacement. Okay. So the rest are all really little. Honestly, there's an expansion tank replacement that was 4,700.
So how many expenditures are you talking about?
The list, there's probably about 20.
And could I even get like a detailed, like a spreadsheet of all those expenses? You know, and the names of the company.
Once you had a chance to go through it with your board, could you give us a spreadsheet on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, along the lines of what we've been talking about with our other stuff. All right. 24,500. Okay, that was the eval for air quality, you know, just so we can see it. And then it'll tally up. I think you said 84,000 was the most actually expended out of that account.
Yes. Yes. And were there specific?
So we can look
questions?
at it and say, okay, that tallies to 84. I mean,
yeah. Were there specific questions that you had though, or no?
I wanted to know exactly how much was spent specifically line by line for that total dollar amount.
Okay.
And I mean, I bring it up again because you're already over budget in that same line this year. Well, you're not over budget.
The HVAC seems to be an ongoing thing.
No, can I?
So 17,000 you've is the adopted budget. You've already expended 15,000 and you have 8,000 encumbered. So this line is a concern for me. And yes, I would like to see a line by line reporting of all those expenses. Is that unreasonable for a Board of Finance to ask for?
No, I just want to make sure the Board of Ed sees it first. That's it.
Okay.
So
I mean, that's fine. But yeah, I think we do want to see it. I mean, Liz has a point here that if you're consistently overexpending something, you know, something's off in the, you know, something you need to look at. And then of course it's the Board of Ed's. The first cut at that is the Board of Ed's, that they need to look at their budget and say, gosh, we keep underfunding this line, and then dig into why. You know, what's going on with the HVAC system? Is it really just a question of, you know, in this 1 year, obviously the eval, if that costs almost $25,000, it's going to blow your budget up. I get that. If that's a once off, but how often does that need to happen? That kind of thing. But, I think what we'd like to see is a chart that, so we can look at it ourselves and just say, okay, that tallies to 84K. And here's what it was spent on. I mean, I think that's reasonable.
127,000.
Well, the transfer, I thought, and if maybe Jody, correct me if I misunderstood what you said. They transferred 120 some odd thousand,
112.
but maybe didn't spend it all.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, and that's fine. Two things for me, and so you can. What was the offset to the HVAC account? What did you transfer the money from? Which budget line item?
I believe Liz said it. I don't have the sheet with me. I think it was salaries or
Salaries.
something to that effect.
So we
Can
moved
tell you exactly.
salary dollars to a repair and maintenance fund. Okay.
I believe
All
it
right,
again,
and
Jeff.
that's okay. That's fine. I got it.
Yeah.
No problem. Can you do me and this board a favor? Do you have the 2025 detailed custom expenditure report that has gone through the most recent process that would show us the $136,000 underspend? Because that would be really helpful for me to sit there and compare it to what you're going to give us moving forward. And I would love to see that report. So it's the report that you provided for this meeting just from last year. Is that possible to get it to all
Like the final budget. I can provide you. I mean, you want to see the final budget? You'll see where everything.
No. I want to see the report out of your system, out of Edmunds, that you provided us here, like these reports, these pages. So you gave us a 2026 custom expenditure report, a summary, and then you gave us the detailed report. Could you do that for last year?
Yeah, the June 30th. You're
June
asking for
30th.
the end of their June 30th expenditure report.
Perfect. That would be very helpful.
Sure.
Thanks. And email it to the whole board as soon as you can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Next week I can do it.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Personally, I think that's progress. I think let's see what we get, and we can talk about it further if needed. But I think going forward, this is the sort of stuff we need to hopefully get accustomed to each other back and forth. That's not terribly articulate, but it's 9:00. Okay, so if we can move on. Liaison reports. I don't have anything with CIP, although I think we're having an upcoming meeting because we do finally have a request for something we have to look at, but I don't have anything from this past month. Does anyone else have any liaising they can bring up? I mean, I already talked about the school project. I don't know if I really have a formal liaison there, and Bill, that's kind of your role, but we already talked about it.
You already talked about it. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Meeting minutes.
I would make the motion that we approve the minutes from 11/19/25 regular scheduled meeting.
Which one?
11/19/25.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
question, I guess. Okay.
I mean, sorry, I didn't hear any further discussion. Sorry. Okay, motion passes 7-0, I believe. Unless there's any no's or abstentions. Okay. That was just the one, right? So we have the other December 17th.
Yep.
Yep. So the December one, I noticed a couple things. Well, one, a little misspelling in new business number 6. The second line says back reconciliations, should be bank reconciliations.
I'm sorry, what page are you on,
Then-
Liz?
I'm sorry, it's item 6, which would be page 2
6A?
of 3. It's the second page of the December meeting. It's, I'm sorry, 6B. The second line says, BOE in monthly packet, back reconciliations, it should be bank.
Gotcha.
And so how was this prepared? Was this prepared by that AI thing? Or was this prepared? Do you know, Jeff, was this prepared by the note, our note person?
That is a good question. It's something that has to really be researched as to how we do this. Right now, I believe it's done through Marina, who is the clerk, and she takes
Okay.
the transcription that's made from this meeting and prepares notes, prepares minutes. That's what I believe is happening.
Okay. The whole discussion about what we just talked about, the whole discussion that we discussed, requesting this HVAC information doesn't really seem to be, I don't think it's documented very well. I wanted to add something to it.
Okay.
So, like where it says, would like to see what was purchased for HC repair after 112,000
was transferred, not completed.
should say was transferred, and something like discussion ensued. Liz asked for receipts purchase orders for the 15,000 that was budgeted plus the 112,000 that was transferred. Jodianne agreed to look into it and get the information on that transfer to us.
Yeah, that does need to get, well, at the very least, that the completed thing has to be fixed. So
Do you
yeah,
want me to type? Do you want me to type that? Like, who would fix this? I could.
if you want to, if there's an email you could send to the appropriate person to say, you know, here are my thoughts on that. That might be the way to go.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to
Jeff,
make a motion to add that, and I will take it upon myself to figure out how to do that? If everybody agrees with it.
Sure.
Sure.
Why don't you make the corrections and bring it back next month and have it?
Yeah, we'll just vote on, we'll just push this off till next month rather.
Yeah, well, we'll table it for now.
Table it.
Okay.
And we can talk about that. But, yeah, fair enough. It does need a little cleanup. By the way, I just happened to notice in looking at this, the things that we were curious about in the check register are listed here. Spring, Abby's Contracting, and Barton and Lugudis.
Oh, where's that? Where's that?
5B.
Oh, no way. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh,
They are
questions regarding spring.
Spring.
Abby's
Yeah.
contract and
So
Barton
we
Lotus.
were right about spring. I'm just putting
right.
out
Try
that's
to
what
have
the
memo
other ones
column
were.
and report.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it's
So
there.
let's say ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto on
But
that.
anyway, we will go ahead and come back to that issue and come back to those minutes in our next
All right.
meeting. That's
So the action is, Liz, you're going to forward that to Marina in the office, or?
No, I think I'm going to type up the note, send it to the board, and then we'll vote it in next month.
Gotcha. Okay.
that seems
In the meantime,
reasonable to me.
in the meantime, I'll also try to find how to get in touch with Mariana.
Marina. Yeah.
Marina.
Marina.
And I do hope it's a person and not just AI.
I think it is.
Anyway, okay. So if there's something further on that, we're at board open discussion. If there's anything further, I mean, I'm kind of talked out. Anybody else got anything else they wanted to bring up? Okay. Very good. Correspondence. Does anybody have anything on that? Okay. And public speak. All right, let's go. I think we had some people join and whatnot. So, all right. Well, I guess I'll start with Jeff. Technically, he's a sort of an expert member, but whatever. Jeff, do you have anything further to add? You're muted.
I'm a non-voting
Non-voting member, so you don't
There
count.
you go. Don't count me.
Bye-bye.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, no need for you. We're done with you. No, kidding. All right, Marcy.
No, thanks. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Melissa,
All set, thank you.
Joanne,
I promise super quick because it's just important. I promise. Only because you have so many new people on there. And I think the history of what we've tried to do in the past is important for them to know. So just that little talk that you guys all talked about with the way the budget's presented with revenue, showing it as all the money that comes in from the grants. If you all look back in your emails, you'll see many from me with little drafts of what we did send to the Board of Ed and requested. So there were meetings that were had for 2 years. So just keep that in mind. We have been trying this and we think it's important. Liz is showing, agreeing with me. We did get those reports from the Board of Ed in the past with the grant little info on the side. And then boom, done with that. Just want the new members to know that it has been attempted so that they're up to speed on that. So hopefully everybody can push forward. The other thing that I just really feel, I do agree with Mr. McGuire on this one thing with the contract that was signed with Fuss and O'Neill, just pinpointing exact steps for 48,600. And it just seems silly to me that if we paid for that expense as a town, we wanted that expense, let's just do it. They can pivot in the construction. I don't care, do all the change orders. It was like design plans. Fuss and O'Neill, who know their stuff, are going to oversee the RFP process. Boom. We don't need people to come in. And I love everybody, people, this is not personal because I've had good conversations with Caitlin. But if we're paying Fuss and O'Neill, we don't need Caitlin to run around trying to get contractors to bid on a town project. Just follow the letter of the law. There was, like Jeff said, 3 or 4 steps. Let's just do it. I mean, if the project pivots to design build, that's fine for all of you that understand that. And I'm getting to learn it. That's all. Thank you. Just 2 cents for a history lesson.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks, Joanne.
Joanne. All right. Don't think I'm missing anybody. Lisa, it was good to meet you. Thank you for
you.
being here.
You're
Look forward
welcome.
to
Welcome
working with
aboard,
you in the
Lisa.
future.
Thanks.
All right. And in that, anybody want to move to adjourn?
I'll move
I
to
want to hang out. Let's hang out and chat.
Okay, yeah. All right. Louise's motion to adjourn. Anybody second that?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we adjourn at 9:16 p.m.